What in the world could we possibly be printing now? Given that that's just part of the base, it's going to be big.
So the interesting part is going to be how well this sounds, because the microphone is clipped here, obviously. For protection, what we're covering today is Call of Cthulhu's print from Loot Studios. This whole entire print is going to take quite a bit of time, and as you saw from the initial base piece, it's going to be rather large. So join me on this journey as I print all of these pieces. I show you the amazing quality of this print, and also the awesome job that Loot Studios has done in making this incredibly easy to assemble, and it all comes pre-sliced. You almost can't mess it up. I'm Ron Burke, Editor-in-Chief for Gamingtrend.com. Let's do some 3D printing.
All right, we've got everything pulled out of the printers. I'm using a pair of Elegoo printers. These are Saturn 4 Ultras. I've got a Saturn 4 Ultra and a Saturn 4 Ultra 16K. I'm looking forward to the new Jupiter 2. That should make some of these things go even faster, but as it stands, being able to print these two at a time, fantastic. I also have a Saturn 3 that's in need of repair. I'll eventually get that going just to speed all this up. Now, when I started, you saw I had a couple of these pieces that were already printed, and they were sitting on top of resin supports. I use that method to ensure that everything inside gets nice and clean, or I should say dries out. Right after I pull these out, I'm gonna strip all the supports off. I kind of towel them off most of the time, especially on the flat surfaces. I wash them, I let them sit for about 12 hours, and then I wash them again, let them sit, and then cure them. So we're coming in at the tail end of that process. And then obviously we have these two new pieces that will go into that base. These are all the base pieces that remain, these last two. These are starting off the back piece of Cthulhu. I will periodically throw up pictures and try and identify where these pieces go, but I do also want to show you the interlocking pieces system that Loot Studios has put together. It is easily, by a large margin, the easiest item you will ever put together that's 3D printed. There is no need for any complicated figuring out what piece goes to what. It literally is grab, make the number match the number. This is B6 on this. I know I'm going to take a B6 part and put it inside that. It is certainly easier than what I'm doing on another piece where I'm doing some resin 3D printing for a really large piece of Space Marine armor. What is this piece? Who knows? So there's certainly levels to all of that. Without further ado, let's pull these off the plate. I'm going to throw these in the wash unit and I will run it afterwards so it does not pick up all that sound while I'm working. I use a pair of wash cure stations so I can, again, kind of double up on everything. As far as other equipment I use, I swear by these Wham Bam mats. They are amazing. They make it very easy to clean up, and usually makes things a lot simpler. If there is a spill, I can address it very, very quickly, and it doesn't go over the lip edge. I have not installed the plates, the magnetic plates on these. I had them on there while I did a review, and then I changed the plates, so I've not moved those to these new plates. But in the meantime, we do it the old-fashioned way. Let's kind of get underneath it. Sliced, done. Now, I have printed thousands of plates at this point. There are a couple of tricks I'd like to impart to you. You'll see me do this periodically. Before I put the plate back on, I wipe it clean completely. So maybe that's necessary, maybe it's not, but it allows me to put it back on there. I never bother cleaning this part. A lot of people like to complain about that. It doesn't do anything. It's not gonna hurt you to not mess with that. And I'm just gonna slide this right back into my machine. Wrong machine. Clamp it shut. That's ready to go. So I'll set this one aside. We'll grab the next one. Same thing. Basically lightly tap this and just kind of try and get underneath the edge. I'm not pushing really hard. I'm certainly not pushing on the print itself. I'm just trying to get underneath that lip. I don't need it to do much. Just a tiny little bit, just like that. And then I can kind of work underneath it and pop it loose. Just like that, nice and simple. Wipe clean. It also gives me a tactile feel of the plate so I can make sure that I don't feel any scratchy parts. At that point, you're pretty much required to put some sort of magnetic plate on there. You can't have scratchy parts on this. It will destroy your FEP very quickly. All right, throw this into the build. Clamp it shut. Now we're on to removing supports. Now, do not leave your prints sitting in your printer for a long period of time. The answer is simple. It makes these very, very stiff. These just finished printing maybe an hour ago, so the supports should come off very easily. As you can see, I can basically run my finger across it and they come right off. I do have a heat gun that I also use. It's a little handheld heat gun. I'll put a link down in the description of this video that I use. It's just a little handheld pen that allows me to put heat in a specific spot, and then I can kind of loosen the supports where I need to. If you find yourself getting a lot of little pieces of supports marking the surface, that's a good way to loosen those up so they don't snap off and leave a hole. I find that as long as you catch this right after you're done printing, it's very easy to simply pop them off. Just take your time. Realize you're going to be spending dozens or even 100 hours printing this. You're not going to save anything by rushing this part. In fact, you're probably going to cause yourself more grief by trying to just rush through getting the supports off. You'll have more pock marks. You might even break the print. I did mention that Loot Studios has made these pre-printed with supports, so they come ready to go. They also have their downloads where you can slice it yourself with your own supports. The supports are so good that honestly, I just go with the pre-printed with supports. It keeps things nice and simple. Now also, while I'm building this in resin full size, I'm going to turn it into a dice roller. Mike Case is also working on printing it in FDM. And I'm going to see if I can show you that there. You can see inside, I hope, it says B5 right there, inside at the very bottom. So I know that I'm going to eventually print a piece that says B5 that's going to slot inside that. Now, the other thing that I do, I like to make sure that there's a ton of drain holes, especially through holes where I can make them. Now, these are the ones that Loot Studio put in, these little tiny ones. I knock these big boys in here. And basically what I do is I use the slicer to slice down to where I can see a surface that I can safely put a few more drain holes through. And the idea is, especially for a larger piece like this, I want to drain the resin completely through it. I want to make sure that there are no pockets. No pockets means you don't suddenly have a surprise a year later when something suddenly pukes all over your countertop because there was some little pocket of resin just boiling away, sitting inside that print, waiting to ruin your day. So I've unfortunately had that happen with some of the early prints that I had made and did not either wash enough or cure enough inside. I just didn't know better, and now I do. So I take a few extra precautions. I also tend to do this. I tend to remove the supports with my fingers. I don't tend to use tools to do this. I find that, again, I'm a little more able to control the amount of force I'm putting on something if I'm doing it with my fingers, and I can just kind of work it out. When I do need to use a tool, I'll be very careful about which ones I use. I'm not, getting in there with a scraper and trying to dig it out. So this is really kind of my fingertip, just rubbing through there. And you don't have to make it perfect. Perfect is what post-production work is for. That's where you go in and clean this stuff up after the fact. You're always going to have some work when you're done with your print. That post-process work is what I meant to say. So realize you don't have to be obsessive about this. You just need to kind of get the bulk of it out. Some of it's going to come out in the wash too. Now, I did want to mention that this is a sponsored build. Sunlu was kind enough to reach out to us. They really liked some of the work we'd done on other prints, and they have sponsored this print by giving us a bunch of resin. Other than that, they just want to see this come together. They want to see it come to life. If you look online, not a lot of people have printed this thing. It's massive. And so they wanted to see it with their stuff. This is just standard ABS-like gray. There's nothing special going on here. As I just used the tool I just said I wasn't going to use. I wasn't using that directly on the model. I was using it to grab a piece that was already off. All right. So I think this is about as clean as I can probably get it. As I said, it's a back piece, so this is going to probably sit on the very back, and there'll be some pieces that sit on top here. So we're going to set that aside. I tend to clean as I go, so I'm going to grab some of my paper towels that I had sitting over here. I'm just going to kind of mop up some of this mess. Now you may be wondering, what am I doing? I'm dropping it into a trash can. I'm not throwing this away, right? Well, you're right, I'm not. I have a trash bag down here. The can is easier to make my supports all fall in one place, and then at the end I pull that out and I lay it flat outside so it can sun cure over a couple of days, and then I'm able to safely dispose of it. Don't just directly throw this in the garbage. That's, for one, it's going to end up in your water table at some point. I don't want to drink this stuff. I don't think you want to either. I don't care how safe they say it is. The other part, always wear safety goggles. I have two recent examples of why that's true. One is from yesterday. So in multiple occasions, I've had a situation where I have printed something, and during the process of removing the supports, I've had a piece splinter when I do something like that. And I had it come directly at my face and hit right on my glasses. So that right there makes you a believer. The last thing you want to be doing is digging one of these out of your eyeball. So always wear your eye protection. The second one is from yesterday. Obviously all this stuff is kind of slimy when you remove it from the vat. And so with gloves, which you should also always wear, you don't want this stuff on your skin. With gloves, it can make things kind of slick. And I had removed all the supports. It was ready to go in the vat, and I lost my grip. And I dropped it about 8 inches into the water, into the isopropyl alcohol, and that went everywhere. And when I was done kind of cleaning things up, I looked at my glasses, and they were just peppered with all sorts of resin spots and alcohol spots. So all of that would have been in my face and also in my eyeballs. So don't do that. Don't cause yourself grief. Always wear your eye protection. Arguably, I could wear my breathing apparatus while I'm doing this work as well. The resins have gotten a lot safer, and as such, I typically wear my breathing protection while I have the vats open on the machine. But just discarding this stuff, I don't typically feel the need. I've used meters and stuff to check and kind of check my assumptions, and I seem to be right that there's almost no VOCs in the air beyond what are kind of in the air naturally. So there we go. All right, so we've got everything out of this. I did the same thing here. I've got a bunch of rather large holes for drainage. These little 5 were the ones that they were using. This just gives me a little bit more. I also knocked one on the side here, so it can drain out the side. The idea being I can kind of get the alcohol in there, swish it around, shake it out, rinse, repeat. Again, I'm gonna double clean these. You've got supports that are inside here, and it's very easy to have resin trapped inside those supports. And all it takes is one to ruin an entire print. So this is starting to look awful creepy. As I mentioned, B5, and that's gonna go right here. So look like that. And just like that, I have one large piece, and the seam is almost nothing. So this will be very little work to clean up that one seam, get it closed, seal it shut, and I mean, look at that. That's already coming together nicely. So I'm gonna go ahead and wash everything, clean everything down, get these washed and set up to kind of vent overnight. And then we'll head over and I'll take a look at the support pieces that are, I'm sorry, the base pieces that I've already printed. So, but for now, time to change my gloves. Now these pieces are already printed and cured. You're ready to go. Again, you see the large holes that I put in there. You can see that there's a numbering system here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then there's a 7 on top. So we simply find the piece here, 2, and match it against the 2 there. And you see there's the little nubs. So you simply notch those 2 together, and you now have that piece. Same thing with 1. I know that goes right here. So that's gonna notch in and kind of lock in place. 3, just like that. And we have at least the first part of this base. The last 2 pieces are the piece that we have curing, and that represents the waves that Cthulhu's kind of rising out of. And this base is pretty massive. So I'm looking forward to being able to eventually show this in all of its glory, but for now, we've got waves. So I'll keep you posted as we go. I hope you enjoy this. Let me know in the comments if you've got any suggestions. Do you do any tricks that I'm missing for 3D printing? What's your experience like, and have you printed something this large? I'm Ron Burke, Editor-in-Chief for Gamingtrend.com. Stay safe out there, wear your eye protection. We'll see you again very soon.